Good morning. It's February 20th, 2016. This is the Watchman News, and I'm Mike Callahan. Yesterday, a story came out on KATU, and I had missed it apparently. It's titled, Grant County Sheriff Accused of Helping Refugee Occupiers. Or Refuge. I don't know why I keep saying refugee. Grant County Sheriff is under state investigation after complaints about his conduct during a standoff at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. There were apparently concerns Sheriff Glenn Palmer might have been passing information to the occupiers during the standoff. He was apparently kept out of the loop about plans for the traffic stop that led to the arrest of Ammon Bundy and several others and the shooting death of Lavoy Finicum. Now Palmer is facing more than a half a dozen complaints, some from law enforcement agencies, about his actions during the standoff. Palmer is outspoken about gun rights and is sympathetic to anti-government protesters. The sheriff's office even posted a video clip featuring Palmer on its website. And I do want to step in there and I want to say something about that statement. That statement is just one step away from calling him a terrorist supporter. I can't express this enough. It's important for anybody that stands behind the Constitution, that wants to have our constitutional government back. You must not allow yourself to be called anti-government. You need to correct that each and every time that you run across it, and you need to say, I am not anti-government, I'm pro-Constitution. They are trying to change the language, and by changing that language, they change the outlook. We cannot let them do that. Can't let them do that on anything. They've used that same tactic for racism, for religious beliefs, just about anything you can imagine. They use these tactics of just changing the language just a little bit, but it changes the narrative completely. So I just wanted to point that out about that. Anyway, on with the story. People are tired of the oppression from their government, he says in the video. And at some point, it's got to stop or we're going to have problems. See, I told you, one step away from calling him a terrorist. But complaints, including one from the John Day 9/11 Center and John Day's chief of police to Oregon's Department of Public Safety Standards and Training, claim Palmer stepped over the line during a Refuge standoff, helping keep the militia informed of law enforcement efforts to end the occupation. We received a number of complaints from residents of Grant County alleging misconduct or potential misconduct by Sheriff Palmer, said Eric Gablick, spokesman for DPSST. The DPSST replied to the complaints by saying its preliminary investigation shows Palmer's actions may violate the board's certification standards. That means Palmer could be stripped of his state law enforcement credentials. They appear to be very serious and require that we look into them, and we've asked the Oregon Department of Justice to conduct the investigation on our behalf, Gablick said. It wouldn't be the first time the DPSST has taken action against a sheriff. In 2008, Multnomah County Sheriff Bernie Giusto resigned as the DPSST was wrapping up an investigation into alleged misconduct by Giusto. Palmer declined KATU's request for a comment. The DPSST said it is not clear how long the Oregon Department of Justice investigation onto Palmer's actions may take. And just one more thing I'm going to interject with here. Let's not forget about our constitutional right to face our accusers. I sure hope that Sheriff Palmer demands to know who these complaints are coming in from. Remember, you have a right to face your accuser. A lot of times when you have complaints called in about you, they will tell you that information is not released as to who called in the complaints. You have a right to face your accuser. I had this in my hometown when I had a neighbor harassing me, using the city and using the police department to do his bidding, so to speak. And it was a long time that I kept saying it over and over. You know, look, I have this constitutional right. I have that constitutional right. It really didn't get me anywhere until finally, in the end, when I was actually called into court to face city ordinance, code violation charges, and I demanded a jury trial, and was told at that time that I had to come up with, I think it was a $65 fee. At that moment, right at that moment, I had to pay this $65 fee in order to have this jury trial. And I looked at the gentleman. It wasn't a judge. I don't know what he just sat behind a computer and entered stuff. I have no idea what he was. I looked at the gentleman and I said, show me in the Constitution where I have a right to a trial of my peers if I pay $65 today. But only if I can pay $65 today. Because he was telling me if I didn't have that money to pay that fee right then and there, that I couldn't have a jury trial. And so within days after that court appearance, I got a letter in the mail dropping all the charges. So, got to remember, we need to stick to our constitutional rights. Folks, we are not anti-government. Don't ever let them call you anti-government. We are pro-constitution, which means we're pro-government. We're just pro-constitutional republic government. Thank you, folks. This is Mike Callahan with the Watchman News.